Okay, so kia ora and welcome to our Q&A. So for the Q&A part of this early literacy clinic, I'm needing you to send in your questions to Kath, and she's going to read them out to me. But do tell Kath if you'd like to ask the question yourself. Now, let's face it, I am not an expert in everything. No teacher is, and I'm going to need your awhi, your help. So if somebody asks a question and I start answering it, but you've got an answer that you think or a suggestion that would help that teacher or teacher aide, could you please type it into everyone? Because this is not just about what I know. I'm hoping in the early literacy clinic that everyone can share what they know. And I know we've got some very experienced teachers here today, and we would love to learn from them. And as I said, I don't know everything. So are you ready, Kath? I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to pin you, Kath, so that we can see you. And I'm going to pin myself so we can see me. There we go. All right. Kath, do you have a question for me?
Look, I do. So here's a question. Can this program be used as a spelling program?
Early words. You mean?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, teachers are super cool and good at adapting things to make things fit for them. So if you wanted to, I mean, I haven't done that myself, but that's not to say after the lesson, if I have time, I might just give them a whiteboard pen and say, hey, can you write it? Have a look, write it, and then hide it. Now write it without looking. And yes, I do that sometimes outside of early words, because I know for some tamariki, it's when they write it that they get it. And so, yes, you might do something like that. Or if you have another idea of what to do, have a go.
Okay, great. So here's one. This person would like some tips regarding organising a reading program for a class of students ranging from years 0 to 8, and they're all in the same classroom. There's 15 of them.
Okay, so this reminds me actually when I was at school, because I went to health camp when I was 10 years of age, and the teacher had children from year 0 to year 8, and I can remember doing something called SRA, which I don't know if any of you older teachers here remember. Those, it was a card reading system. I loved it. The fact I'm remembering it 50 years later says quite a lot. Look, I hope some people can type in some some responses to help this particular question, but I can just tell you, I've only taught year 0 to year 3. I haven't done year 0 to year 8. One thing I would say in terms of those early readers, you're going to have to hear them read every day, although time is an issue. So I would say for those early readers, don't feel you have to do the whole book. I mean, some of those books, particularly when you get to level 12, 13, quite long. You could do half the book today, half the book tomorrow, because I imagine you're not going to have many children in groups because you're going to have quite a spread. Or when you read a book, to speed it up, you read a line. I always say, I'll read to the full stop. Now you read to the next full stop. So my aim, I think, if I was in your situation, would still be to hear as many children read as possible in a day. But particularly the early readers, maybe the older independent readers I could hear 2 or 3 times a week, but I still would want to hear them read out loud. It's just really reading that's the trick. I probably would do less shared writing and more guided writing, because everyone can do guided writing at the same time. I start literacy with singing. I would choose songs more appropriate for the older children, because the younger children can level up. Do we have any people sending in their responses, Kath, who may have had this?
Yeah, look, Raylene said she's 30, did them in school in year 6 SRA.
Oh, she's talking about the SRAs.
Yeah.
I love those SRAs.
And Cheryl also loved the SRA cards. SRA, sorry. Marilyn has said we do early words the first 2 terms. This is, sorry, in response to the first question. Then move on to spelling for the last 2 terms.
That's a great response too. So look, I don't know if I've given the greatest answer for how to handle year 0 to 8 in one class, but I'm sure you'll know it'll be a lot of like one-on-one work and having things that everyone can do. But in terms of reading, you do really want children reading at the correct level, but it'll just have to be shorter and frequent as opposed to longer and frequent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, people are feeding comments, and you're welcome to talk directly. You know, so if you want to ask a question to Yolanda, feel free to do so, because I'm just reading the threads. Yeah, Cheryl's also saying it's absolutely imperative to time the probe.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's a question from Roz. I have a child who has huge difficulty hearing the difference between I and E sounds in the CBC words. Any quick tips to help with this, please?
Yeah,
Go.
so I would say, I'm just looking to see if I've got my cards here. I would say, Ross, get into some drilling, get an I card and an E card. Now, I presume you've already taught them their stage 2 phonics so that they've had the lesson. So get an I and an E, and I'd go one between the other, and do that drilling that I talk about, insect again, insect again, insects, you're holding up, Now we're going to bring out air. What's the first sound for egg, egg, air? Egg. And so you go egg 3 times and say, now I'm going to try and trick you. And you hold it up, and I would flick to the mnemonic and just go back and forth between the two. Now, I know, when I did reading recovery training, we were told don't put don't put B and D together, but actually I think for an air, I do put them together once I've taught it, and I've taught it. It's like, no, you've got to learn the difference between them, and only by going back and forth is the way. And just do it a little bit every day, between the 2 cards until they've got them.
Okay, thanks. Liz, I'm not sure if you have a question, or Marie. I can see your microphones are off or on, so feel free to ask. Okay, all right. Next question. When assessing stage 2 and the child misses the sound of, here we go, of the one vowel, you probably just answered this. Your manual recommends keeping that child at stage 2 until the vowels are consolidated. So should they do another cycle of stage 2?
Oh, no, don't do another cycle of stage 2. It is true, you don't really want tamariki going to stage 4 without their vowels. But as Roz has just pointed out, some children do take quite a while to get between those, like an e and a and a. I wouldn't make them do stage 2 again. I mean, one, are you doing vowel drilling? That's when you're drilling the vowels, using the vowel strip chart, which you can download from my website, insect, apple, umbrella, like really getting that drilled into their heads. So I would move them on to stage 3 because we're still going to be reinforcing it. But I would make a wee note to myself that that child is going to need more revision. So that's the kind of child I would have the letter card. Did you say it was I that the child didn't know?
Yes.
In my pocket, and you bring it and you flash them when you see them. What's that sound? So just be mindful that that child is moving forward, not really knowing all their vowels, but hey, what are you going to do? You can't just keep putting a child in stage 2 continuously just because they haven't got one. So I would say make a teaching judgment. And now in the manual, I say it quite strictly because I'm aware that I do need to be quite strict, because if I'm not strict, people can often read it as, oh, well, we can kind of do this and do that. So I am quite strict. But between you and me, you'll have to make a teaching judgment as to what is actually practical and be mindful that that child needs more revision.
Okay. And then this kind of follows on to stage 3, and the child writes B for the final foaming in shed. And they say D, but when writing it, they write it as B. So okay. Again, it's about your manual. It says, do you think it's, oh, sorry. The manual says keep the child at that stage due to their BD confusion.
Yeah, so the manual does say that, but at the end of the day, make a teaching decision, so there's no phonics police coming in to check, and you make a note to yourself, if my child heard D at the end of shed, but wrote B because they've got a BD confusion, in an ideal world, I would fix that before moving them on. But come on, you've got a group of children, they're all ready to go. This one isn't. So I would let that child move on, but I would make a note to myself, I'm going to have to keep working on that BD. And, that's an ongoing thing for a lot of students. I use the B and D downloadable charts from Twinkle, the bat before ball, doorknob before door, bat before paw, and I make children trace over them at the start of writing every day, and it's mindful, and I keep it on the table, because the children at this level, if they're coming up to stage 3, they will know they have a B and D confusion because you've told them several times. So say, oh, you've got this issue, so I'm going to put the BD chart here, so when you come to write BD, I want you just to check and I find my students actually will check, and they use it as a little guide. In fact, you can see my student doing that in one of the Buzz videos. He's got a BD confusion. He just has it beside him, and he just uses it when he's writing.
Okay, well, look, I've come to the end of written questions. So are we going to open this up so that people can just chat to you now?
Oh, yeah, if they would like to. Do you want to do that? How do we do that, Kath? We just open it up. So teachers, if you want to just talk to me, we can open it up now and have a conversation, or if not, we can close the clinic early and everyone can start their long weekend. But Kaya Koma, I would love it if you could, in your chat or in my Facebook page, I would love it if you could let me know what you think about having a literacy clinic and if you would like to have another one. And then if there's enough response, then maybe I will think about doing that. I'm just going to share the screen and just remind you, if you haven't already, just about my ways to communicate with me. I'm on Facebook now, I'm on Instagram, you name it, I'm there. So please come onto my pages and please give it a like or in a positive review. But that's a place you can ask questions and keep up with things. And don't forget to sign up for my newsletter as well, my monthly newsletter, which will be coming out next week. So was anyone wanting to chat before we finish?
Yeah.
And I can see they've got messages.
Yeah, I would like to.
Oh, hello, is that Marilyn?
Yeah, hi. I was just curious. We're a Better Start Literacy approach school, but we have gone back to using Yolanda Sorrell phonics because we think it is just a little bit more specific than the Better Start Literacy approaches. And we're timing the two in together. And I'm just wondering, do you have other schools in that situation, or what's your take on the Better Start Literacy approach? Is it something you're aware of, or I'd just be interested in your feedback.
I'm very aware of it myself. And in fact, in my own school, we talked about going on the training. I actually recommended that we did, because I just think the more training we get, the better. And then teaching can make like the best decisions. And so we are shortly to do that training, and I am aware of it. And I think, and I've gone into schools doing structured literacy and science and reading, and I've observed lots of lessons, and I haven't seen anything I don't like. What I would say would be something to be mindful of is just to make sure it's not instead of a rich literacy program, but as well as. I mean, we're all kind of doing the same thing. When I observed the structured literacy lessons, I kind of thought, oh, well, I do that, and I do that, and I do that in my phonics teaching. Often, you know, phonics is just phonics, and it can be packaged in different ways. But at the end of the day, it's just phonics. And what I hope teachers and schools will do is make their own decisions about what is the best way to help their students. And what I would hope teachers will do is teach phonics explicitly and systematically, whether it's Better Start Literacy or my literacy, or you know, whatever it is you're doing, but do it as part of your literacy program, not instead of. So it does worry me when I hear of schools throwing out their guided reading books and the children are not reading and writing anymore. And I've talked to teachers in those schools who are doing it, and I'm saying, well, you know, have I missed something? Are your tamariki like doing really well? And what they say is actually everything's got much, much slower. So yeah, I think be open to everything, but at the end of the day, teachers, you know, you need to look at these things yourselves, make your own decisions. The research is not all there, by the way, that says that phonics first and only approach is the way to go, even though that's what we've been told. Yep. So I don't know, does that help, Marilyn? You have to unmute yourself.
We go. Yeah, I think it does. If you manage to do the whole Better Start program, it is a much richer program. It's not just the phonics. Right. But it's so much that it is very hard to get it all done. Yes. And so the reason we've gone back to Yolanda Sorrell is that small group that we do it the last 10 minutes before morning tea, and we all swap classrooms according to where we're at. And we just find that works better for us as a syndicate to have 4 or 5 different teachers teaching appropriately. And some teachers have got lots of kids and other kids have got just a few kids, but it just means they get that daily 10-minute specific phonics lesson. And then you go back to the Better Start, that's much more of a whole language literacy approach. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
so
I think
I'd love to hear what
yes, what do other people think? Because I know with my own school, I said, if we're going to do this, let's do Better Start. It looked like the best one to me. So it's really good to hear you say that. Does anyone else want to comment?
Hi, hi, it's Cheryl here.
Hi, Cheryl.
Listen, my actual question before was, is the 30 seconds for the probe, is it absolutely necessary to do it that way?
Good question.
Because I have 4 children and they're all at different levels, and one particular little girl is very up and down, sitting, talking about different things, and she gets sidetracked so easily. It's never going to take only 30 seconds to do the probe with her, because she'll stop midway and start chatting about something completely different that we're doing. So I just wonder how important is it that it is done in 30 seconds?
Well, how old is the student?
All of my kids are 5.
Oh, they're the 5. Of course, a 5-year-old will stop and talk to you about a dog they saw on the way to school. Exactly. There's 2 things I'm thinking. I mean, the first thing I'm thinking is that it kind of really does have to be 30 seconds, because my experience is that they can't like really focus and get that down. They do tend to forget the words later. That's the experience of my experience and others. But the other thing, I think when you're 5, it's about learning how to focus for 30 seconds. And I'm teaching 5-year-olds at the moment myself. And with one group, I actually have had to say to them, okay, you can't talk about anything else for this thing. You can tell me afterwards, keep it in your head. But for this, you just have to do that. And that's a little bit of training about what it means to come to school and to focus on a task. And obviously you want them to talk, you want to hear what they have to say, but not right now, just got to do this right now. So maybe a bit of, if they're open to that, or if she's really all over the place, sometimes, it can pay to pause someone for like 2 months, let them grow up a bit, and then give their place to somebody else, and then bring them back 2 or 3 months later once they've just grown up a bit.
Yeah, she's similar in the classroom with.
Yeah, I bet she is.
Everything. So
what a poppet.
Yeah, I mean, she's lovely. I love her, but yeah, I just thought, oh my gosh, I keep going way over 30 seconds with these cards. Yeah, and she does know a lot of the words, but then some of the words we've already done, she'll get wrong, All
right. Like, so that means she didn't.
Or became, or came or become, or but she's got it when we're doing it, and then we'll get sort of 3 or 4 probes later, and then all of a sudden, oh, we don't know that one anymore.
And so did she get those ones that she's now forgetting later? Did she ever get them in 30 seconds at the time that she achieved that word?
Oh, well, it's the whole probe word card. It's I don't think she's ever got anything in 30 seconds. No.
Well, look, so that will be why. Because if they move on and they haven't got it in 30 seconds with 2 or fewer mistakes, it does come apart later. So it might be something to revisit and like to really focus on those basics. Now, I don't know if you've seen my video with me teaching early words with my 5-year-old student.
The video,
and you can see
yeah,
and you can see there's no talking, there's no chit chat, there's no like, we're like boom, bada boom. It wasn't like that when we started. I can assure you, Cheryl, I had to train him, and part of me is like, I would like to have a conversation too, but like, look, it's 5 minutes, we've got to focus, man, because it will fall apart.
We haven't actually got the time, because you've got this to do next and that to do next.
So you've got to get her real focused. Okay, well, good on you. Hey, look, I think it's 4 o'clock now. Is that it, Kath?
It is 4 o'clock, but we do have another question. Do you want to answer it?
Just a quick, just quick, and then we'll
okay. Maria, do you want to ask this, or shall I?
Yes, I can. That's fine.
Oh, hello, Maria.
Hi.
Marie.
If I can email you this if it's too long. I teach English language learners, and due to COVID, we are starting to take the younger students now. We've been taught through our training that we do phonics after we read our book, so that the kids have got some content, some context. I'm wondering if there's a way to add more context, or is it fine to do it after the book and it's just in a separate space in the timetable?
That's a good question. That's so interesting, because I mean, I learned phonics when I taught in Tower Hamlets, which is in the east end of London. And in Tower Hamlets, we have schools where every single child has English as a second language, and the children come to school and they can't speak English. And we always did phonics first before the reading. So that's just doing it the other way around. I mean, look, you have to do what you have to do. And if you have to do it second, okay. It's just helpful to do it first because you can take it through. So maybe why not try it the other way for 2 weeks and see if that gives you any discernible outcome. You know, I'm a great fan of just trying it and seeing. That's how I learned about phonics, doing a letter a day. I was so anti a letter a day. I was like, no, I'm doing a letter a week. I thought I'm going to do a letter a day for 2 weeks just to prove that it doesn't work. But it did work. So why don't you just like turn it around and see what you think? And I'd love to know what you find.
Okay, I'll do that and see how it goes. Thank you.
You would. Okay, well, in that case, everyone, I will just share my screen again just to finish off. So thank you so much for coming on our first early literacy clinic. I can't read all the chats because I've been talking, but please let us know through Facebook or Insta or through the chat right now before we close the session if you would like to do this again, if it has been worth your while, if it's something that is useful, because I really want to help you help our tamariki with their reading and writing, because that's what it's all about. Kia ora, Kath, for supporting me, and I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Happy Matariki, everyone.